Hello everyone, welcome to our channel EDU Psychology. And in our previous session, we had covered the cultural basis, socio-cultural shaping of human behavior, wherein we are trying to discover that it's not just the biological basis that affects the human behavior, but also the culture plays a very important role. And we had covered the concept of culture, cultural transmission. In case you have missed it, please click on the link given above. And let us quickly begin with the basis of human behavior part 8. Now here we will begin our session with enculturation. Now this term enculturation refers to all learning that takes place without direct deliberate teaching. That means we learn certain ideas, concepts and values simply because of their availability in our culture context. For example, what is vegetable, what is wheat, and what is cereal and what is non-cereal. It is all defined by what is already there, previously labeled as vegetable or cereal and agreed upon by people at large. Now, such concepts are transmitted both directly and indirectly and are learned very well because they are an integral part of the life of a cultural group and they are never questioned. Now, all such examples of learning are called enculturation. Thus, enculturation refers to all learning that occurs in human life because of its availability in our socio-cultural context. The key element of enculturation is learning by observation. Whenever we learn any content of our society by observation, enculturation is in evidence. These contents are culturally shaped by our preceding generation. In this sense, enculturation always refers to learning something that is already available. A major part of our behavior is a product of enculturation. In Indian families, many complex activities like cooking are learned by observation. There is no prescribed curriculum and no textbook for such activities, and there is no deliberate instruction for cooking. Although the effects of enculturation are obvious, people are generally not aware of these effects. They're also generally not aware of what is not available in the society to be learned. Now, this leads to an apparent paradox that people who are most thoroughly encultured are often the least aware of what their culture's role in modeling them. Socialization. Now, socialization is a process by which individuals acquire knowledge, skills, and dispositions which enable them to participate as effective members of group and society. A socialization, it is a process that continues over the entire lifespan and through which one learns and develops ways of effective functioning at any stage of development. Socialization forms the basis of social and cultural transmission from one generation to the next. Its failure in any society may endanger the very existence of that society. The concept of socialization suggests that all human beings are capable of far greater behavior than they ever exhibit. We begin life in a particular social context and there we learn to make certain responses and not others. The most clear example is our linguistic behavior. Although we can speak any language that exists in this world, we learn to speak only that language which people around us speak. Within the social context, we also learn many other things. Example, when to express emotion, when to suppress them, and etc. The probability of our behaving in a particular way is greatly affected by people who relate to us. Anyone who possesses power relative to us can socialize us. Such people are called socializing agents. Now, these agents include parents, teachers, and other elders who are more knowledgeable in ways of their society. Under certain conditions, however, even our age peers can affect socialization. The process of socialization is not always a smooth transition between the individual and a socializing agent. It sometimes involves conflicts. In such situation, not only are some responses punished, but some are also blocked by the behavior of others in effective ways. At the same time, several responses need to be rewarded so that they acquire greater strength. Thus, reward and punishment serve as basic means for achieving the goals of socialization. In this sense, all socialization seems to involve efforts by others to control behavior. Socialization, although primarily consists of deliberate teaching for producing acceptable behavior, the process is not unidirectional. That means individuals are not only influenced by their social environment, but they also influence it. In societies that comprises many social groups, individuals may choose those to which they wish to belong. With increased migration, individuals are not only socialized once, but are often re-socialized differently in their lifespan. Process called acculturation, which we will discuss later. Due to the process of enculturation and socialization, we find behavioral similarities within the society and behavioral differences across society. Both processes involve learning from other people. In the case of socialization, the learning involves a deliberate teaching. In the case of enculturation, teaching is not necessarily for learning to take place. Enculturation means engagement of people in their culture. Since most of the learning takes place with our engagement in our culture, socialization can easily subsumed under the process of enculturation. A good deal of our learning involves both enculturation and socialization. Language learning is a good example. While a lot of language learning takes place spontaneously, there is also a certain amount of direct teaching of the language, such as grammar courses in elementary schools. On the other hand, learning of language other than the mother tongue, such as learning of Hindi by a European child or a French by a child in India, is completely a deliberate process. Now, let us discover more about these socialization agents. Now, a number of people who relate to us possess power to socialize us. Such people are called socialization agents. Parents and family members are the most significant socialization agents. Legal responsibility of a child care too lies with parents. Their task is to nurture children in such a manner that their natural potential are maximized and negative behavior tendencies are minimized or controlled. Since each child is also part of a larger community or society, several other influences like teacher, peer groups also operate on their life. Let us discover these socialization agents in brief. Parents have most direct and significant impact on children's development. Children respond in different ways to parents in different situations. Parents encourage certain behavior by rewarding them verbally, for an example, by praising them, or in other tangible ways, maybe buying a chocolate or objects of child's desire. They also discourage certain behaviors through non-approving behavior. They also arrange to put children in a variety of situations that provide them with a variety of positive experiences, learning opportunities, and challenges. While interacting with children, parents adopt different strategies which are generally known as parenting style. A distinction is made between authoritative, authoritarian, and democratic or permissive parenting style. Studies indicate that parents vary enormously in a treatment of children in terms of the degree of acceptance and degree of control. The conditions of life in which parents live, poverty, illness, job stress, nature of family also influence the style they adopt in socializing children. Grandparental proximity and network of social relationships also play a considerable role in child socialization directly or through parental influences. Now, school. School is another important socializing agent since children spend a lot of time in school, which provide them with a fairly organized setup of interaction with teachers and peers. School today is being viewed as more important agent of child socialization than parents and family. Children learn not only cognitive skill like reading, writing, doing mathematics, but also many social skills like ways of behaving with elders and age mates, etc. Their role, fulfilling their responsibilities, etc. They also learn and internalize the norms and rules of society. Several other positive qualities such as self-initiative, self-control, responsibility, and creativity are all encouraged in schools. Now, these qualities make children more self-reliant. If the transition has been successful, the skills and knowledge children acquire in school, either through curriculum or interaction with teachers and peers, also get transferred to other domains of their life. Many researchers believe that a good school can altogether transform a child's personality. Now, that is the only reason why even a poor parent wants to send their children to a good school. Comes the next is peer groups. One of the chief characteristic of middle childhood stage is the extension of social network beyond home. Friendship. Friendship acquires great significance in this respect. It provides children not only with a good opportunity to be in a company of others, but also for organizing various activities like play activities collectively with the members of their own age. Qualities like sharing, trust, mutual understanding, role acceptance, and fulfillment develop in interaction with peers. Children also learn to assert their own point of view and accept and adapt to those of others. Development of self-identity is greatly facilitated by the peer group. Since communication of children with peer group is direct, process of socialization is generally smooth. Media influences. In recent years, media has also acquired the property of a socialization agent. Through television, newspaper, books, and cinema, the external world has made and is still making its way into our home and in our lives. While children learn about many things from these sources, adolescents and young adults often derive their model from them, particularly from television and cinema. The exposure to violence on television is a major issue of discussion since studies indicate that observing violence on television enhances aggressive behavior among children. Now, there is a need to use this agent of socialization in a better way in order to prevent children from developing undesirable behavior. Let us get familiar with the term acculturation. Acculturation refers to cultural and psychological changes resulting from contact with other cultures. Now, contact may be direct, for an example, when one moves and settles in a new culture, or indirect, like through media or other means. It may be voluntary when one goes abroad for high studies, training, job, trade, etc., or involuntary, like through colonial experience, invasion, political refuge, etc. Now, in both cases, people often need to learn, and also they do learn sometimes new to negotiate life with people of other cultural groups. For example, during the British rule in India, many individuals and groups adopt several aspects of British lifestyle. They prefer to go to the English schools, take up salaried jobs, dress in English clothes, speak English language, and change their religion. Acculturation takes place any time in one's life. Whenever it occurs, it requires relearning of norms, values, dispositions, and patterns of behavior. Changes in these aspects require re-socialization. Sometimes people find it easy to learn these new things, and if their learning has been successful, shifts in their behavior easily take place in the direction of the group that brings the acculturation. Now, in this situation, transition to a new life is relatively smooth and free from problems. On the other hand, in many situations, people experience difficulties in dealing with new demands of life or a change. They find it difficult and throw into a state of conflict. This situation is relatively painful as it leads to experience in stress and other behavioral difficulties by acculturating individuals and groups. Psychologists have widely studied how people psychologically change during acculturation. Now, for any acculturation to take place, contact with another cultural group is essential. This often generates some sort of conflict. Some people cannot live in a state of conflict for a long time. They often resort to certain strategies to resolve their conflicts. For a long time, it was felt that social or cultural change oriented towards modernity was unidirectional, which meant that all people confronting the problem of change would move from a traditional state to a state of modernity. However, studies carried out with immigrants to Western countries and native or tribal people in different parts of the world have revealed that people have various options to deal with the problem of acculturative changes. That means the course of acculturative change is multidirectional. Changes due to acculturation may be examined at subjective and objective levels. At the subjective level, changes are often reflected in people's attitude towards change. They are referred to as acculturation attitudes. At the objective level, changes are reflected in people's day-to-day behavior and activities. These are referred to as acculturation strategies. Now, in order to understand acculturation, it is necessary to examine it at a both level. At the objective level of acculturation, one can look at a variety of changes that might be evident in people's life. Language, dressing style, means of livelihood, housing, household goods, ornament, furniture, means of entertainment, use of technology, travel experience, and exposure to movie, etc., can provide clear indication of change that individuals and groups might have accepted in their life. Based on these indicators, we can easily identify the degree to which acculturative changes have entered into an individual's or a group's life. The only problem is that these indicators do not always indicate conscious acceptance of change by individual or groups. They are held by people because they are easily available and economically affordable. Thus, in some cases, these indicators appear somewhat deceptive. In order to place some confidence and conscious acceptance of change, we need to analyze them at the subject level. John Berry is well known for his studies on psychological acculturation. He argues that there are two important issues that all acculturating individuals and groups face in cultural contact situation. One relates to the degree to which there is a desire to maintain one's culture and identity. Another relates to degree to which there is a desire to engage in daily interactions with members of other culture or groups. Now, based on people's positive or negative answer to these issues, the following four acculturation strategies has been derived: integration, assimilation, separation, and marginalization. Integration refers to an attitude in which there is an interest in both maintaining one's original culture and identity while staying in daily interaction with other cultural group. In this case, there is some degree of culture integration maintained while interacting with the other cultural groups. Assimilation refers to an attitude which people do not wish to maintain their cultural identity and they move to become an integral part of other culture. In this case, there is a loss of one's culture and identity. Separation refers to an attitude in which people seem to place a value on holding on to their original culture and wish to avoid interaction with other cultural groups. In this case, people often lead to glorify their cultural identity. Marginalization refers to an attitude in which there is a little possibility or interest in one's cultural maintenance and little interest in having relationship with other cultural group. In this case, people generally remain undecided about what they should do and continue to stay with a great deal of stress. Now, so far we have discovered that human behavior is not fully under the control of biological factors alone. Socio-cultural factors interact with biological dispositions of individuals to give a particular shape to their behavior in a given society. Now, since societies and cultures across the globe are not homogeneous, human behavior is also not expressed in the same way everywhere. Now, this allows us to say that besides biological roots, there are cultural roots of human behavior. While genes write the script of biological transmission, memes write the script of cultural transmissions. The genes and memes work together to allow behavior to unfold partially in some similar and partially in different ways within and across society. Understanding of culture basis of behavior will make us realize that behavioral differences between individuals or group are not due to structural and functional properties of their biological system alone. Cultural features of individuals and groups contribute in significant ways in generating behavioral differences. Now that's it for this session. Hope you like our channel. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe our channel. We wish you a happy learning and let us discover this amazing field of psychology together. Thank you.